Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand? Join Councilman Williams. Salute to our flag and country.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remain standing for our prayer.
Almighty God, spring has arrived once again, bringing renewal and growth to Guthrie. Yet, we also recognize the challenges this season brings. We lift up those who have lost their homes in the recent wildfires, bring them comfort, strength, and hope as they rebuild. We give thanks for all who have stepped forward to help in the recovery process, showing compassion in this community. We ask for your protection over the city during the season of severe weather. Grant wisdom to those in tonight's meeting that they may serve with integrity, seeking justice, and the well-being of all people. Guide our thoughts and words and actions that they may reflect your love and truth. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Richardson. And open our City Council meeting of April 1st. Second item on the agenda is public comments, community announcements, and recognitions. And we have a number of those. The first being a presentation by Lieutenant Colonel Cal Breed. Colonel Breed?
Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank Guthrie City Manager Eddie Faulkner, Mayor Steve Gentling, Vice Mayor Grant Aguirre, Mayor-elect Adam Ropp, and all City Council members for allowing us to make this presentation. The Oklahoma Military Heritage Foundation was established in 1999 with a mission to share and appreciate the distinctive and gallant military history of our great state with induction into the Oklahoma Military Hall of Fame. A quote from their mission statement reads, "From statehood through the World Wars, Korea, Vietnam, the Cold War, the Gulf War, and the war on terrorism, Oklahoma's servicemen and women have played and continue to play a major role in the defense of our nation." In 2023, the Oklahoma Military Heritage Foundation established a Hall of Honor to expand the impact of the foundation and honor the many heroic and patriotic Oklahomans deserving of significant recognition. In January, the first capital chapter of the Oklahoma Military Hall of Honor was established here in Guthrie. This chapter covers an area of 9,000 square miles across 12 counties. It is estimated that 50,000 veterans live in this area. This chapter shall identify, celebrate, and memorialize deserving veterans of this region who have served Oklahoma and the nation. I would like to proceed with our inaugural inductions. Oscar J. Upham. Come on, ladies. Accepting on behalf of the family is Catherine Hayes, Tony Strader, and Diane Davis. Marine Private Oscar J. Upham served during the Spanish-American War and the Boxer Rebellion in China. Born in Toledo, Ohio on December 14, 1871, Upham joined the United States Marine Corps in 1896. He served in Mare Island, California, and after a year was assigned to the USS Oregon. He was serving as a powder monkey for one of the 6-inch guns and is credited with shooting the first shot which began the Spanish-American War. While serving during the Boxer Rebellion in 1900, he was among Marines erecting barricades in Peking, China, when they were surrounded by Chinese rebels. The Marines were under siege for 3 months. Upham was awarded the Medal of Honor for erecting the barricades while under heavy fire from the enemy and for holding out during that siege. Oscar later worked for the United States Postal Service in Guthrie and passed in 1949. He is at rest at Summit View Cemetery. Presenting the Hall of Honor certificate is Kim Vincent, Commander of American Legion Post 58 and Hall of Honor committee member. In the middle, please. Presenting the Hall of Honor medallion is Catherine Espinoza with the Scabbard and Blade Honor Society and the Guthrie JRTC program. Thank you, ladies. Michael Manning. Right here, brother. Attending is his wife, Desra, his son, Airman First Class Leon Manning, his mother, Sharon, his cousin, Bob Coyle, and Greg Faust. Sergeant Michael Manning served our country in the United States Army from 2007 to 2015. In 2011, Sergeant Manning deployed to Afghanistan with the 45th Infantry Brigade Combat Team. As an M240 gunner, he distinguished himself when 200 Taliban ambushed his dismounted patrol. With his fellow troops pinned down in the open, Sergeant Manning took up a support by fire position. He was knocked unconscious when 3 rocket-propelled grenades exploded near him. When he regained consciousness, he continued suppressing the enemy with accurate and effective machine gun fire, allowing his fellow troops to escape and for support to arrive. For his gallantry and wounds, he was awarded the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, and the Combat Infantryman Badge. Michael is an active member of the Guthrie community. He serves as Sergeant at Arms for the American Legion. He's an 89-year committee member, coaches youth sports, and is an active member of his church. Presenting the Hall of Honor certificate is George Schaefer, chaplain for American Legion Post number 58 and Hall of Honor committee member. Presenting the Hall of Honor medallion is Bryson Sampson, battalion commander and Scabbard and Blade Honor Society member in the Guthrie JROTC program. Thank you, Michael. Stephen Gentling. Sir. Attending is his wife of 57 years, Sue, his son Todd of Broken Arrow, his daughter Kara of Bixby, and daughter Tiffany of Edmond, along with their families and Steve and Sue's grandchildren. Colonel Steve Gentling served our country in both the United States Army and Air Force for almost 3 decades, as both an enlisted soldier and as a commissioned officer. Colonel Gentling's military service culminated as the commander of the 507th Medical Squadron at Tinker Air Force Base. Colonel Gentling also enjoyed a lengthy and successful civilian career supporting veterans at the Veterans Affairs Administration. For over 2 decades, Steve served in positions of increasing responsibility, culminating as the Medical Center Director at the Department of Veterans Affairs Medical Center in Oklahoma City. Steve also served his community as mayor of Guthrie for 5 consecutive terms. On April 16, 2016, Mayor Gentling issued a proclamation recognizing the citizens of Guthrie who serve their country and community through service in the armed forces. The city of Guthrie was declared a Purple Heart City, one of just over 900 cities nationally with this honorable designation. Presenting the Hall of Honor certificate is First Sergeant Cameron Campbell, Army instructor at the Guthrie High School JROTC program and Hall of Honor committee member. Presenting the Hall of Honor medallion is Andrew Willoughby with the Scabbard and Blade Honor Society and the Guthrie JROTC program. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. This is the inaugural inductees into the first Capitol chapter of the Oklahoma Military Hall of Honor.
Hey, you don't have to leave. You guys can stay. We'd love to have an audience. We really would.
You want to hear all the zoning code stuff?
No, Dan stayed home, didn't he?
Right here,
Yeah, that's what I thought they were here for too.
We have a full agenda tonight with presentations. It's great to see our mayor honored by the distinguished group. We also have National Animal Control Officers Week and a proclamation by the mayor, which he's asked me to read as he goes and takes pictures, and I understand that. Whereas animals of all shapes and sizes and species fulfill many important and vital roles in the lives and hearts of our citizens, and whereas the vast majority of animals are cared for and loved by people appropriately as either livestock or as family members, and whereas many animals are abused, boarded, overbred, tortured, neglected, abandoned, taught to fight or kill, or subjected to other atrocities, and whereas animal control officers are committed, professionally trained men and women who have a unique desire to serve their fellow man and all other creatures great and small, and whereas the City of Guthrie Animal Control Officers specifically maintain one of the highest animal adoption and placement rates in Oklahoma, and whereas our animal control officers maintain one of the most successful and long-lasting volunteer programs in the state of Oklahoma, and whereas each of our animal control officers have exhibited exceptional empathy, professionalism, and providing services above self during the performance of their daily duties, now therefore be it resolved that Stephen J. Gintling, Mayor of the City of Guthrie, declares the week of April 13th through the 19th, 2025 to be National Animal Control Officer Appreciation Week, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism kept our citizens and their creatures, great and small, safe. Adopted this first day of April 2025. And if I could have Lieutenant Mize and Animal Control Officer Haley come up. The next recognition is the National Telecommunicators Week, proclaiming the week of April 13th through the 19th to be National Telecommunicators Week in the city of Guthrie, Oklahoma. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our police officers, firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens whose telephone the Guthrie Emergency Communications Center communicates, and whereas the public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact of our citizens with emergency services, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and monitor their activities by radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety, and whereas the public safety telecommunicators of the Guthrie Police Department have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, treatment of patients, and whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, professionalism, and the performance of their job in the past year, now be it therefore resolved that Stephen J. Gintling, Mayor of the City of Guthrie, Oklahoma, declares the week of April 13th to the 19th of 2025 to be National Telecommunicators Week in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism has kept our city and citizens safe. So if I could get Lieutenant Mize to come back up and take the proclamation on behalf of our telecommunicators.
Chris makes a late appearance. If we can give it. I'm trying to.
Like in the middle.
I know. I don't want to be in a picture.
Crime Victims Week and proclamation proclaiming the week of April 16th through the 12th to be Crime Victims Week in the city of Guthrie, Oklahoma. And if I could get Lieutenant Mize to
That's what I'll say, just stay up there.
Whereas the term victim is more than just a label and has legal standing and protection that go along with it, and whereas Crime Victims' Rights Act passed here in Oklahoma and the federal level guarantees victims the right to meaningfully participate and use their voice in the criminal justice process, and whereas the right to provide an impact statement ensures that victims' voices are considered during court sentencing and when applicable restitution processes, and whereas including and elevating the voices of survivors makes certain they are heard and seen and creates a path to forging and sustaining community trust, and whereas survivors' lived experiences can serve as a catalyst for implementing innovative programs, shifting existing programs in new directions, and changing policies and practices that prevent survivors from accessing services or pursuing justice, and whereas the City of Guthrie and its police department is hereby dedicated to amplifying the voices of survivors and creating an environment where survivors have the confidence that they will be heard, believed, and supported. Now, be it therefore resolved that Stephen J. Gentling, Mayor of the great city of Guthrie, Oklahoma, declares the week of April 16th, 2025 to be Crime Victims' Rights Week, reaffirming the city's commitment to creating a victim service and criminal justice response that assists all victims of crime, and expresses our sincere gratitude and appreciation for those community members, victims, service providers, and criminal justice professionals who are committed to improving our response to all victims of crime so that they may find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace. Adopted this first day of April 2025 in the city of Guthrie, Oklahoma. That's it. I think that's it.
Nope, you got two more.
I got two more. Oh, okay. Well, I don't think Lieutenant Mize has to come up for the others.
Steve is down.
Is the mayor back? Oh, he's coming back. I will relinquish the chair and allow our mayor to read the proclamation for 89ers Day and Arbor Day.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right. Would the commander of the American Legion, Post 58, message, come forward, if you would, please. Join me right here. I'd like to go ahead and read this proclamation.
Girls up here?
Sure, that'd be even better. Queen and Princess, very good. This proclamation reads, whereas Oklahoma 89er Celebration is an annual event commemorating Oklahoma's first land run, which opened the unassigned lands of central Oklahoma, and whereas we as Oklahomans commemorate the vision and resolution displayed by the pioneer women and men who opened our territory to settlement on April 22nd, 1889. And whereas Oklahoma's land run marked the beginning of one of the most dramatic and colorful periods of history in our great state. And whereas we as Oklahomans reflect on the brave deeds, determination, and faith that guided early settlers as they built a firm foundation for future Oklahomans. And whereas the Oklahoma legislature has declared that the historic city of Guthrie in Logan County shall be the official city of festivals for the 89er Celebration Week. And whereas events taking place throughout the week in Guthrie include parade, rodeo, carnival, baseball game, as well as concerts, contests, and dances. Now therefore, I, Governor Kevin Stitt, do hereby proclaim April 19th, 2025 as Guthrie 89er Celebration Day in the great state of Oklahoma. Commander? Very good.
I think they want a picture, if you could.
We can go right here in front of the,
Okay?
we don't want the microphone in there.
Okay. All right.
It gets enough attention already.
Right here, is that it? Oh, very, very good. Very good.
One. Got it. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And I have,
One more.
did you do 3?
I did. Did I do three? Yeah, okay.
Okay, all right.
No, you did 4.
Okay, I have one more. Just one more, folks. That's usually grand applause. This is a proclamation for Arbor Day. How are you? Come on in. Okay. Whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, since trees can reduce the erosion of our topsoil, lowering our heating and cooling costs, clean the air, produce oxygen, and create habitat for wildlife. And whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas trees provide numerous benefits, such as increasing our property values, enhancing the economic viability of business areas, and beautifying our community, and wherever they are planted, a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And therefore resolved, that I, Stephen J. Gentling, Mayor of the great city of Guthrie, in recognition of the upcoming National Arbor Day on April 25th, 2025, do hereby acknowledge Arbor Day in Guthrie, America. Accept it. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
We'll wait just right here. We'll get the logo in the background. They don't have to watch that.
I know. Dust down.
Tracy.
Okay. Got it out of the way.
Steve gets in all of them.
An opportunity. All right, we are at item number 3 of our agenda, which is the consent agenda, items A through H. And I will accept a motion to approve them as submitted.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Submit your votes, please.
All votes are closed. Not yet. I'm sorry.
We're waiting.
Can you guys push your buttons?
Oh,
Is mine not coming up? It's not making any noise.
I've never made a motion.
Oh, the mayor.
I don't think they're lit up.
Mayor, try yours.
There we go.
There you go.
All votes are in.
All right, let's see the votes. Unanimous approval then to approve consent agenda items A through H as submitted and published. Item number 4, which is items removed from the consent agenda, there were none. Item number 5 is the Highland Park Pool presentation. Eddie, are you leading that?
Yes, Mayor
Okay.
and Council, we have a presentation tonight from GH2 Architects and Crossland Construction, who are acting as our architect and construction management team on this project. It's got a talented staff with a great presentation for you. They gave this presentation to the Parks Board a couple weeks back. I wanted to come and bring it to you for your review and approval as well. So we're going to have Daniel Smith with GH2. He's also got Sarah Andrews, and then Aaron Stoops with Crossland will speak some later. So, Daniel, the floor is yours, and Ken, if you'll get out the lights, please.
All right. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you all for having us here tonight to present this. My name is Daniel Smith from GH2 Architects. I'm the project manager for the municipal pool reconstruction. So, the current municipal pool is located at Highland Park on the east side of Guthrie. It's circa kind of the early 1930s, so it's been in the city for quite a long time, and currently has not been used over the past couple of years due to maintenance and just overall condition of the pool. And so what we're going to present today is kind of the issues with the existing pool and then what we're proposing for work at this site. So, like I said, the existing pool, it's about 7,000 square feet as it is, but built around early 1930s. And one of the major issues just through the years is upkeep and maintenance. And so every year before swim season, it has to be repainted, both the pool shell and the pool deck. So that's a large maintenance item. The existing pool also has a lack of accessibility. So for patrons who need to get into the pool, there's got to be other methods such as a lift, but it doesn't have a ramp or a stair integral to the shell. As well, you can see on the pool deck, there's other obstacles in the way from people being able to go around freely. And then from the bathhouse to the pool deck, the only option are stairs or going outside. So that's one of the main goals, is providing new accessibility to the existing municipal pool location. As well, there's the existing bathhouse on the site. And so, you know, it's got a lot of maintenance items that need to be addressed. Top of the list are accessibility, just the age of the space. There's a lot of things that have been maintained over the years but may not be in the best shape. And so if you've been inside, it's kind of a maze to get through it. And so difficult for people who have different mobility needs to move through and access the city's facilities. And then the equipment building that currently houses the pool's equipment is in pretty rough shape. As you can see in the bottom center image, the original roof has corroded to a point that it's no longer used as the primary roof. There's holes in it. It's in very rough shape. And so there's a temporary roof on top of that currently to protect. So what we're proposing, and I'll kind of go down this list, is to use the same site, reuse the existing bathhouse, the existing equipment building. But what we'll be doing is demolishing the entire existing pool deck and then a portion of the existing pool shell, and then replacing it, as you can see on number 2, with a smaller pool. Given the usage rates of the municipal pool, only about 30 people per day were visiting, and so it's a lot of pool to be able to maintain and upkeep for that number of people. And so providing a new pool that has new amenities, it functions better, it's modern, you can really serve the community better with that. So to address accessibility, it's a 0 entry on the left-hand side there. So each entry, so people can move in. And then the deepest part there around item 11 is about 5 feet. So it's really more of a recreational pool, people with younger kids and families. So there's a couple of other amenities with it. Item number 11 is a vortex slide. So just a big slide that spins like a corkscrew, and then people are ejected out into the deeper part of the pool. And then item number 12 is a small toddler slide, so in the shallower area they can use. There will also be some geyser spray features in the shallow area for play as well. And so as we kind of go around other items, item number 4, we're addressing the accessibility issue from the existing bathhouse down to the deck level. So we'll be keeping everything essentially at the same level that they currently are, but addressing those accessibility items and new stairs as well. And in an effort to address cost and make sure we're being as efficient as possible, the existing shade structures are relatively new, and so we are going to be reusing them with the existing site. So as I mentioned up front, we're reusing the existing bathhouse and equipment building. And then on item number 9 there, those are the public restrooms for the park. And although not specifically a part of the scope of this project, we do feel that when we're doing additional work to these, if there is additional funds come bidding, that we can do some cosmetic updates to the exterior of those. So moving into the existing bathhouse, what we're essentially doing is we'll demolish the interior of the bathhouse, keeping the roof, the exterior walls, and most of the systems within it, but redoing the layout of the space. And so what we're trying to achieve here is using the same entry and exit points, having a central lobby space where the lifeguards, the staff, have a central location that they can see people coming into and out of the aquatic center. And then on either side, you have the men's locker rooms on the right there and the women's locker rooms on the left. And so we're trying to achieve a more symmetrical layout and create a more open space for people to move throughout. For the most part, we have a couple of differences there, but we're providing new toilets, new showers, new dry changing spaces. And then item number 4 there is a new family restroom. So that'll be enclosed. It'll have an accessible shower and toilet, as well as baby changing stations, so families can have privacy as they need. And then moving to the equipment building, we'll be demolishing the 2 existing roofs there that are there now and replacing those. And so all the new roof structure will be protected from the corrosive chemicals that are used with the pool to treat the water. So we'll be protecting that. All new pool equipment for the new pool, but utilizing the existing building. And then we'll be separating those chemicals over into their own spaces that'll be exhausted separately, also to prevent future corrosion and extend the lifetime of this space. And then, as we discussed previously, item number 5, if the budget allows for it, having an alternate where we can do some cosmetic updates to the exterior and the interior of the public restrooms. And then schedule. We're on track to issue construction documents this May, and then hopefully proceeding into construction later in the summer. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions of Mr. Smith?
So, on the pool that's 7,000 feet, you have stairs, are we keeping the depth of it in your, I'm confused about that.
Yeah, so the original pool was about 7,000 square feet, the surface area. The new pool that we're going back with is about 1,500 square feet. So the old pool shell will be demolished and we'll be placing the new pool within that space.
So again, my question is, they're gonna have to go down 6 or 8 feet to get to the pool? Is that-
Oh, sorry.
That's what it looked like, you had
misunderstood
stairs and a ramp in the old.
Right, so
Park.
we're keeping the same deck level that was existing for the existing pool and keeping the same finished floor in the bathhouse. So we are addressing that same level with new stairs and then a new ramp to bring people down from the bathhouse to the deck.
So they are gonna go down 6 or 8 feet into the,
It's about 5 feet between the two currently.
why wouldn't we fill it in? Is that just not feasible?
With the budget we have for this project and to bring in earth to bring up an additional 5 feet, that's not feasible for this project.
Counselor, if I could jump in just real quick. So the existing pool site will remain level. The deck will be the same. The only change in elevation you'll see is from the bathhouse, which is as it is today. So you won't be on the pool deck and then step down into the pool. The pool deck will all be the same level.
It looked like you stepped down into a new pool deck before you got to the pool from the photo I saw.
Aaron, if we could throw that back up, just to look at that.
So that's what I was looking at. No, back up. Right
Sure.
there.
So I believe you're talking about number 4 here, this here.
Correct, and 3 and 5.
Yeah, so this is just to get you down from the bath.
Correct, yes.
So
Okay.
right now, the existing stairs will bring you down from the bathhouse to the pool deck.
Okay,
Same look and feel.
so the whole thing's all level. Okay, I get it
Correct.
now.
The addition of the ramp is for the ADA accessibility.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Eddie.
Yes, sir.
If we wanted to expand this at a future date, is it possible to do that?
Sure, and that's one of the other points. We've left a lot of deck area, so in the meantime, people can use that to sunbathe or set up, but it does allow for future expansion, whether you guys wanted to do a splash pad in the future or have any other amenity.
Is the primary reason for the reduction in size due to just the head count, or is there anything else that's on?
Part of it is with the head count, the other is maintaining the facility over time and making sure it's adequately sized for the population it serves.
I see.
But I think the key component is the fact that it is expandable if there is future growth or additional needs.
Absolutely.
And money that comes with it.
But how realistically feasible is that?
For expansion?
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what you want to do. If it's a pool expansion, that's a fairly large undertaking. But if it's splash pad or something like that, there's less earthwork that goes into that. There's still plumbing for the aquatic equipment that would need to be done, but it is still feasible for.
Thank you.
With regard to the bathhouse, did you say you're going to maintain the current mechanical, or will that be updated?
So there's no existing mechanical. It's an unconditioned space. So we'll maintain the existing utilities coming into it, so water and electrical, and we'll still use those. The sewer as well, just to make sure we're being efficient with the city's money in doing this. But it'll still remain an unconditioned space throughout the year. And so in the winter, it'll actually be drained. There will be no water left in any of the pipes or anything like that, so you won't have issues with freezing over the winter.
Did you?
Yes, Vice Mayor, if I could say, I think to answer maybe what you're asking, the internal working mechanisms of all of the bathhouse will be all new plumbing inside.
New plumbing and.
Yes,
okay.
all new plumbing inside. We'll be using existing main lines coming to the building.
Okay.
Right, so new toilet fixtures, new showers, new sinks.
What is the current main line that comes into the building in terms of both the freshwater and how long ago was that pipe replaced?
To be honest with you, I do not have an answer exactly what that would be, but if it is either, I would say probably copper.
Okay.
And if it is that, we would go back to the main and bring a new poly line into
Okay.
to stay compliant with our own DEQ lead copper compliance.
It's probably as old as the pool, right?
Very possible.
Something I'd like to add, Mayor and Council, when we looked at the pool and the size, the population, the visitors to the pool was a justification for the decrease. But also, we recognize that by having a new pool, you're going to have more visitors. So and I think that's where you're going,
Yeah.
correct? Thinking to the future about, one, how do we accommodate as many play features with what we have today, so the geysers, the slides, and then get a pool that would also accommodate swim lessons. This pool does all of that and meets the budget for what we had on this project. And really, if we're being honest, the budget is the big driver. So the need to remodel the bathhouse and the chemical house, that drives the cost up substantially. So the real meat and potatoes behind the cost on this is the pool. But the additional cost that's going to go to the bathhouse and the chemical house have eliminated what we have to play with here in terms of funds for the project. But the pool, we've tried to position it where in the future it could be expanded or add additional features. Maybe it is a splash pad that transitions into. So hear where you're coming from. I think we've addressed that to the best of the ability that we could with the funds that were available from CIP number 2.
Wouldn't it make more sense to pre-plumb that now so that it's significantly cheaper for expansion in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll defer to our construction management
This is
team
just,
on that.
see, there's no action. So we're obviously going to have another meeting on this, right?
So there will be an action item when the construction documents are ready to be put out for bid. So I would prefer we ask those questions now so we don't get all the way through the CD process and try to go out for bid. So Aaron, if you want to speak to the cost associated with that, that'd be great.
Sure. Good evening, Council. My name's Aaron Stoops, Vice President at Crossland Construction Company. We're serving as the construction manager on this job. In this kind of preliminary phase, our main duty is to manage the budget, manage the schedule, and manage the materials and procurement issues that we'll inevitably face with just kind of the onset of what construction looks like nowadays. So with that, we're currently looking at about a $2 million budget with the project. As Eddie alluded to, about 50–60% of that is the cost of the pool alone. So the remaining costs are all the other items that Daniel's kind of gone through in terms of beautification and getting things up to code, ramps, things of that nature, and as you mentioned, infrastructure. So the pool infrastructure to prepare for something like that, I'm not sure entirely what that would look like, but you know, once you kind of get the main capacity into the pool, it's about upgrading the equipment. Beyond that, so I mean, if you're talking expansion, adding on to this thing, you know, demolishing it in the future and adding on to it, it would be, in my opinion, a little bit more of an upgrade to the equipment rather than the piping infrastructure to it. So you can certainly put conduits in and things like that, but the area of the deck that we'll be filling in will be very loose and easy to get into in the future. It's not going to be as difficult as, you know, native ground or something like that that we're breaking into, or we're not going to be breaking through concrete, you know, or anything like that necessarily. So infrastructure for that, I'm not sure how you'd prepare for that, you know, too much.
No, it makes more sense if they're going to be able to readily go into the deck.
Exactly, yeah.
Because if it was solid concrete, you know, you got to demo it with jackhammers and stuff. It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. And when you're talking pools, it's really the capacity of the equipment, not necessarily, you know, I can't foresee like a need to upgrade the lines coming in, you know, in half-inch, quarter-inch, inch to do that. Most of the time when you upgrade a pool, you're upgrading the equipment that's feeding it.
Do you foresee an increase in construction costs over the next year for this project?
It's certainly possible. I think if I had a crystal ball, I'd probably be able to give you that answer a little bit better. Tariffs certainly are at the top of our kind of radar. If you will, we are keeping track of that as much as we can. It can go up, but you know, really, we're going to see once we do get the construction documents and put it out to bid, we're gonna have the best truth we have there. Fortunately, at those times, those are fixed contracts. So once, you know, as Eddie mentioned, we'll bring our GMP to council. That'll get approved, and then we'll issue our contracts as absolutely fast as possible to lock in those prices.
We've been burned on that before. We're all a little PTSD on that.
Yeah, so have I. So
yeah.
It's,
we're not alone.
Yeah, it's a tough landscape to navigate, certainly. You know, I think it's a little bit, procurement-wise, that's a little bit better. Supply chain's a little bit better. We're not, you know, facing tremendous lead times like we were 2 or 3 years ago. It's really just how's that cost going to affect us. And if I go back and look at kind of 2017 when this first happened, we got kind of our first round of tariffs from Trump and that administration at that time, it seems like the scared factor increases prices faster than the actual prices increase. So we'll do a good job of kind of mitigating that to our best ability, and obviously on a competitive bid scene, we're going to get everybody's best effort on it.
Excellent.
If costs do become an issue, is there a way to do phases on this project, or does it just kind of need to all be done at once?
Well, as I always say, it's cheaper today than it ever will be. So, you know, you definitely need to, we need to pack as much as we can into it. I think we've vetted that tremendously to this point. You know, I think our budget was around 1.5, 1.6 kind of starting off, and as really requirements came to the table more than anything, I don't think they were necessarily wants and needs that were, you know, being added in. It was, we got to have this. You know, we've been speaking recently, just even in painting the exterior, that was kind of an alternate at one point, but some of the modifications we'll do, if you see some of the sides of that, I mean, it needs painted. If you're going to put, you know, the money to upgrade this facility, it'd be worth it to, you know, paint it as well. I think it's $6,000–7,000 bucks. So I mean, you know, we're looking at every single dollar, how it goes into it, and a lot of what is composing this $2 million right now is from our opinion very necessary. So phasing, of course you can, but you know, there's a lot of ADA compliance that's on the table right now that really, you know, needs to be done. If you open that Pandora's box with it, you got to at least do those things.
So at 1,500, I'm kind of back to Adam's question about the square footage of the pool. And I understand we're on a budget. I
Yes.
get that.
Yes.
I get it. But what does that make, what size does that make the pool?
Daniel, could you speak to occupancy?
Because that
Like,
just
how many
seems like it
occupants?
is kind of
Is it
small.
25% of what's there now, or what's this?
Yeah, so a 1,500 square foot pool gets you, I apologize, I don't have the number, but
Sorry.
it's over 100 occupants total for the pool area. With
Still 3 times the daily average.
Okay, that's my
use.
question. I didn't know how many could actually
Yes.
go in it.
Right, so there's a factor that goes into it, but yes, it's over 100 occupants can be there at any one time with this size of pool.
Any other questions from council, these two gentlemen? No?
Mayor and council, one last thing I want to say. GH2 and Crossland have worked really hard on this project with us. They've met their deliverables with no issue. We have worked through some budget issues from the beginning. As Aaron mentioned, we started out at $1.5 million, and we knew $2 million was our hard stop. But ultimately, you do the pool, really need to do the bathhouse, because the accessibility from getting down to the bathhouse to the pool is a big issue. Having an accessible pool is great, but where do they change and how do they use the restroom? So accommodating those needs, as we've integrated each of those requirements, we've seen the project grow. And to Councilwoman Mills' point, I think if it came down to a true question of, do we try to find more funds for this project or do we scale it back? At the end of the day, we can always come back and say, we're just putting money to the pool. We don't want to do that, obviously, because it's not a complete project. But if we had to do that, that's an option that's on the table. I think our team will work really hard to make sure that that's not something that we have to consider. But I do want to commend them for their hard work. They've done great work for us, and they've hit those deliverables, and we look forward to that project.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much
you, guys.
for that information, great presentations. Look forward to the outcome. We do have one individual that asked to speak or to ask a question on this. Ms. Turner?
Yes, thank you. My name's Martha Turner. I'm the vice chair of the Urban Forestry and Park Board. And we had this presentation a couple weeks ago. I was out of town, but I did view the video. I've had several citizens and several of the Park Board people also would like to also make note that we feel like dropping the pool to a quarter of the size that it was is a big concern for us as our community grows. We appreciate all that the architecture firm has done in accommodating everything that is there. That was our desire also. But we would just like to make note that we've had several people very concerned about the size dropping down so much. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Okay, that was information only, so there's no vote to be taken, but that will be coming up in the near future. Item number 6, which is the Guthrie zoning code update. We've had a group of citizens as well as councilmen and staff that have worked diligently over a number of months to provide an update. And Deanna's going to present all of that in
Not 5 minutes.
3 or 4.
Right, not 5 minutes.
It's not
Not
5
5
minutes.
minutes. I
Start
said
the
it's
timer now.
hard to take 40 years and put it into a 15-minute presentation. But I really was convinced that the crowd was here for this, but apparently not.
Yeah, no, I think they're getting up at least.
So Dan, you sent everybody a red line, right?
Yes. Yes. Because that's the first thing I want to start off with is some acknowledgements in this, because as the mayor had indicated, this has taken some time, not only for the draft of it, but for the review of it. And it is a large undertaking, and it is, great for the community that we're at this point. There was a zoning code oversight committee that was formulated in that. They held 11 meetings from August of 2024 till the most recent of February of 2025. Each of those meetings were a minimum of 1 hour, some went more, so there was a lot of time that was put in by these members, and so I'd like to acknowledge all of them.
City Council, there was Tracy Williams, Brian Bothroyd, and Adam Ropp. From the Planning Commission, there was Brent Linford and Zach Robbins. The Board of Adjustment, Chris Evans. And the general public, there was Joe Chappell and Elijah Morris. I put an honorable mention in there because Councilwoman Mills did start out as a PC member. Fortunately, she just went to the council, so she still has a doing in this whole process. And also Matt Crum, he was unfortunately not able to be able to commit to the whole thing, but he did start out. I also want to mention our city manager, Eddie Faulkner. He was a large reason why his leadership to get us to this point and kind of get the ball rolling. And he's been a big supporter and understanding of what this code is going to do for a community. And then finally, the other council members that weren't on the oversight committee, Jeff Taylor, Steve Gentling, Grant Aguirre, and Kaylee Mills. Again, this is a true testament to Team Guthrie. Again, I can't, overstate how important this is going to be for our community. Going back real quick, the Oversight Committee was one of the more rewarding committees I've ever been on. There was a lot of good discussion, a lot of good questions. There wasn't any, pounding of fists, headbutting. It was a really good process, and again, a lot of really good conversation in that. So the document that came out of that also shows what that is. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to try to do it fairly quickly. So I'm going to run through, and then at the end, if you have questions, you can have at it. Real quick, just again reiterate why we're doing this. The obvious reason is it's outdated, but the zoning code is the document that implements our comprehensive plan. We have a very good comprehensive plan, even though it's aging. And even recently, the comprehensive safety action plan, the consultant even said the same thing. They're like, man, you got a pretty good comp plan for it being as old as it is. So this is a kind of our first step to actually implementing that. It will obviously help with economic development and viability within our community. There's some provisions in there that will help in some ways and again ensure some others. Housing, it will work well with our big program. It'll do a big part to help with diversifying our housing and offering affordability. And then one of the most important things, I think, is maintaining the character of the city. We can still all do this, but keep the character, especially our original platted area. And as I always say, keep Guthrie in that. So, and then of course, again, it's something that's going to help us down the road to be more proactive as we see development come along. So now I'm going to run through real quick on all the summary of changes. There were some new zoning districts put in. Residential estates is a larger lot for kind of the south community. Put a mixed use in. Added a multifamily and had R2 as our limited multifamily, which kind of already is how it's done, and then a public facilities. We put provisions in there for livestock and fowl, which currently did not exist. Livestock is, as it shows, you get 1 cow or horse per quarter acre. Goats, you get a little more. Fowl not to exceed 100. That's in the agricultural and RE zoning district, or the agricultural zoning districts. Within the residential area, the RE, which again is for down south, you would be able to have livestock. It's the only residential one you can have livestock. And then finally, there would be an allowance for fowl in the residential. You would have 8 total with no roosters. A lot of what I have on here, I referenced the original townsite area, so I wanted to give an actual map that shows that area. It's pretty much all the original subdivisions of Guthrie, basically everything prior to 1970. Most of it was prior to 1950, but it's easy just to say 1970. So when you talk about the original townsite area and some of the requirements, this is the area that we're talking about. Within that area, it will allow 2 units per property regardless of zoning on a 7,000 square foot lot. This obviously allows more flexibility for housing. It could be a duplex, 2 single families, split the lot and have a home on each, or single family with an accessory dwelling unit. And again, there's some provisions I put in there that would allow for more multi-unit development, but again, standards that keep in with the character of what we have. This just is kind of a typical 7,000 square foot lot. There's provisions to allow for more like a cottage court development in that, where you can have small units on a single property. More and more aging population, and even some younger, but aging population are looking for smaller units that are within a neighborhood, not necessarily within an apartment. So this would allow for, you know, as you see, maybe you could get 3 850 square foot units, 4 700 square foot units. There's some flexibility there on those options, but again, it helps to diversify our housing stock. The minimum lot size will be 3,500 square feet within our original townsite area. That's the typical lot that was platted at 25 foot by 140. Again, the big program has half those houses for that type of lot. The garage requirement would go away. People can still have garages. We're just not mandating it in that. And especially for smaller homes looking for affordability, that's a big difference between affordability and, you know, not really affording. Homes with 1,100 square foot or smaller, that would be citywide, no garage requirement. The updated dimensional standards at setbacks, lot coverage, and that was all updated to be more consistent with what we're seeing today in development. And then there would be a special use permit requirement, but it would allow if somebody wanted to come in with shipping container homes, but it would go through a special use permit process. But it would not be allowed within our original town site, so that could be other areas south of town. There's also standards for modular cottage homes. These are pretty much what you see. They would have to be on a solid foundation, but a lot of these oftentimes come as a prefabricated home. Most of these, honestly, probably will end up being accessory dwelling units. But going back to what I was saying with the cottage court, you're likely to see these type of units in that area. Accessory dwelling units, as I indicated, that would be allowed citywide, and just as it said, it's just a unit that is accessory to the primary that would be allowed in a rear yard. There are provisions in there that would limit the size in that, so it would remain accessory. On the commercial side, as I indicated, there's mixed use, and it's pretty much what it says. It's going to allow commercial and residential to be on a single property or within a building. There is a provision for smaller properties that are like just down the street here that are similar to what we have in the downtown, but because they're zone C2 right now, they technically only can have commercial. You can't have residential. So we could rezone that to mixed use, and they can then have the upstairs as residential units. It's very difficult to, you know, try to figure out all the possible mixed-use developments that are coming in. So instead of trying to put, you know, 16 pages of requirements that may not be worthwhile at some point, just made it that large-scale PUDs would go through a planned unit development process. Most of them will anyway, but it just makes it easier for everything, because that way, if there are changes in the market in that, it's easy to accommodate those changes rather than having to get variances to different aspects of the development. Again, as I said, mixed use. Again, it would be both vertical and horizontal. Vertical means within the same building. Horizontal means on the same property. So you could have maybe a commercial building and then maybe a fourplex or something on a single property. The central business district, there were not a lot of changes, but it did. There are more provisions for live-work options. There were some standard provisions for sidewalk, cafe, seating area. Really, it doesn't change what we have. It just puts stuff in writing. So if we do have issues, we have somewhere to reference what they can or can't do. Provisions to regulate single-family homes in the commercial zones. Again, our current code allows residential and commercial. The updated code will do the same. But some of the things it does is allow for some of the single families on a commercially zoned property to go over to like a light commercial. One good example is kind of down the street here on 1st and 2nd Street, just south of the downtown. We have single-family residents that are on commercial, and if somebody wanted to open a little boutique in there, or, you know, an office, or flower shop or something like that, they could do it. But there is a provision that they must maintain the residential character. So again, it looks like a neighborhood, and we don't get more modern commercial buildings in there. And if they do provide any parking, it would have to be in the rear yard. Industrial, there were no major changes, but one of the things I did to make it easier for a lot of things is grouped it into 4 manufacturing areas. Artisan manufacturing is like a guy who makes leather belts, or maybe does shoes, or that type of thing. We have some of those in the downtown. Those would still remain as a permitted use. Assembly is pretty much what it says, where you're assembling parts. You're not really making the parts, you're assembling them. Light manufacturing and then heavy manufacturing. It's a lot easier to have the definitions rather than trying to, again, figure out every possible industrial use. Accessory commercial units, this is a provision that I put in there. I'm a really big proponent of these. I think it has the opportunity in our community to be something great. I can tell you, when we adopt this code, we'll be the first place in Oklahoma to even have this provision. But basically, it's similar to an accessory dwelling unit. You just can have commercial. And one of the examples you'll see in the bottom right is where, and I give the example on East Oklahoma by the high school, where you have the big single families residence there. It would allow them to maybe put a little cafe or a little commercial use along the sidewalk there in that. It would require a special use permit, so we can make sure that it's within the proper areas, because it's not going to be, you know, deep into a neighborhood. But we have a lot of areas along a Oklahoma, Cleveland, and that. But I also have a picture. This is actually off of Walnut near Warner, where you have a house. And so even on some of the busier streets like that, it would end up looking something like that, where the one back unit you could have where they're maybe selling cookies, or they sell, you know, sell flowers or what. But it helps to give more of a commercial into a neighborhood without it being disruptive, if you want to say. But you cannot have like body, you know, out-of-body uses or repair shops or anything like that. It would be limited to a typical neighborhood commercial. And like I said, it kind of is a micro mixed use, and it's another avenue to where you can have kind of that incubator where somebody goes from a home occupation to an accessory commercial unit, then hopefully maybe to a downtown building. But it gives more options and keeps things more affordable for a small business. The special use permit process did not change anything other than updated the factors. If you look at our special use permit now, it basically talks about garbage and parking, and that's about it. And so I updated the provisions to have factors that are typical of more of a special use permit. You know, consistency with the comprehensive plan. Is it, you know, there are similar uses in the area or in the city, you know, and of course traffic and noise and other things that are more relevant when we're looking at special use permits in that. And then there's provisions that will allow community gardens. So if there's a vacant lot within a neighborhood or some area, it could be turned into a community garden. And again, there's provisions to make sure that it isn't going to be an issue in a neighborhood. I enhanced the residential design standards within the overlay district for like duplexes and multi-building development in single building. So for instance, it shows like a couple different duplex options where you may have a duplex that has a front on one street and on the other, or you can have it, you know, on each side. But most importantly, these all require the parking to be in the rear. So within our original town site, Guthrie proper overlay, all that parking is going to be in the rear. We're going to have the houses and the good design and architecture along the street. Porches, obviously. And again, the front and back duplex where you may have where one unit's kind of up and another unit's farther back, and again on the side street. The front porch requirements we changed slightly. A traditional porch is elevated in that. A more construction is on a you know, slab on grade in that. So previously, we had had them put railings in there so it looked more enclosed. There was some concern on that, so we ended up basically going with, if you have this a minimum size of support columns that make it look like more of a porch rather than just, you know, a piece of lumber, then you don't have to have the railings. You can, you know, have just the posts, even if it's slab on grade. Again, the bungalow court, there's provisions for that. Just like I showed before, where you're going to have parking in the back and you would have more of a common area. But again, it's at least gives some visual cues in there as to what we're expecting or looking for with this type of development. Multi-building, this is one of the things where I think we're going to see more of that for us, because one of the things is when you have 3 or more units in one building, it puts in the commercial code requirements, so sprinkling and all of that. To probably keep things affordable, and for a lot of our local builders, I see that they would do maybe 2 duplexes on one lot versus a 4-plex in one building. And so again, this is given some scenarios to where that can happen, but again, having some provisions in there to ensure that it's going to meet the character of the neighborhood. And then finally, you know, a multiplex, again, it would be one building where you could have anywhere from 3 to 6 units type of thing in that. And again, it's just showing that you're going to have your parking in the rear. Multifamily, garages aren't required. They currently aren't required and will not be required. They just have to comply with the parking requirements that are in there. That did not change. It's still 1.5 spaces per unit, and that's what the current code has. There we go. Residential accessory structures, there was a couple changes. One of the things that has come about, and the one example I give is at 1.5 acres or more, you don't have size limitations. Whereas if you're less than that, it's the 50% rule. We have a lot of properties that may be in at 1.3, 1.25, and the rest of them are 1.5. So they kind of get the bad luck because there may be, you know, 1/4 of an acre less than everybody else. Now there's a process through the special use permit where they can say, look, everybody else around me is that size, you know, I should be able to have kind of what they have. And so I made it a special use permit versus a variance because there could be some other considerations that come. But at least there's some flexibility in some of that. The carports within our original platted area will be allowed in front of the house or on the side as long as they're architecturally compatible. We have one of those tonight that's going through a special use permit, and pretty much all the ones that the council has recently approved, that's what we're talking about in that. Outside of that, anywhere else in the city, there would still be a requirement for a special use permit if you go out on the front. It would allow an architecturally compatible carport on the side of your house anywhere in the city, but again, outside the original platted area, if you want to put it out front, it would still require a special use permit. Parking, we eliminated the minimum parking requirements for commercial and industrial uses. This is becoming more and more common. I honestly didn't think I would ever be in a planning career to where this would happen, but thankfully it has. And it's not saying that there isn't going to be parking. It's just saying we, as the city, are not forcing a certain parking on you. So if you have a business and you feel you need 20 parking spaces, you're going to get 20. Often what happens is you have a business, they say we need 20, the code says you need 30. So we're forcing them to put in 10 more spaces that they really don't need or can't use in that. Added some dimensions for RV and bikes, standards for drive-ins, stacking for drive-ins. So again, we don't have what happens over here at the Cornwell, where they have a window right by the street and the second car is out in the right-of-way. This would require a certain amount of area to ensure that we don't have cars backed up in the right-of-way with a drive-through. And then finally, in the residential area, you would get a one secondary parking space that could be gravel. So you wouldn't necessarily have to spend for concrete or asphalt. But it would have to be similar to the picture where you're going to have a bordered area and have it confined so it, is more of a space versus your whole yard turning into gravel. Signs, the freestanding signs, we eliminated pole signs basically. The signs are going to be freestanding signs that are going to be monument signs, similar to what Goodwill has. That's why I use that picture. They will be allowed to be up to 10 feet in height, but they will have to have a base or basically a monument like that. The shopping center signs would be allowed to be up to 20 feet high because they're likely going to have, 4, 5, 6 different businesses on it. But there are provisions along the I-35 corridor to allow up to 75 feet by right in that, so they don't have to go through a variance every time because that's an area that does warrant the higher sign heights. Windows would be limited to 50% of covering anywhere within the city. And then finally, there were provisions for the vertical flags. It's not eliminating them, it's just putting some standards in there so we don't have a property that has 15 of them all over the place and starting to look cluttered, but it would allow like a Shines who has theirs out to have, some advertisement. Separated the ag, residential, and commercial into their own categories, especially when we're talking livestock, because fencing requirements, if you're on a large property with livestock, is going to be different than if you're in your original town site area. Created standards for outdoor commercial storage, temporary use permit section, created provisions for medical marijuana. Those were pretty much how we have regulated it, but there was a provision that was added in there that they couldn't be within 1,000 feet of a school, child daycare facility, or basically any area where there's kids 18 or younger. Created regulations for short-term rentals. This is your Airbnbs. Those would be an allowed use, much like we have. Bed and breakfast would be allowed up to 5 units as an allowed use. 6 or more would require a special use permit in the single-family zoning area. In the multifamily, they would be a permitted use. One of the other things that I changed, because we come up with this a lot, is, well, there's regulations for home occupations, and it's pretty typical of what it is. Our current code basically just had a definition that home occupations are allowed, and that was about it. This puts in stipulations that it should, again, be within the character of the neighborhood. You shouldn't be having people come to your house on a regular basis. It should be where you have maybe an office at home or that. So again, it's just to make sure it doesn't become a commercial use. Minor subdivisions, basically lot splits, put provisions in there. Currently, our code says that if you have more than 3, you require a full subdivision. We have a lot of large properties down in the south part of town, and it's difficult to, if they want to go to maybe 5 or 6 parcels, to force them into a full subdivision for road improvements, sewer, and all that stuff when a lot of that isn't existent. So it allows a few more lots to be split as the acreages get bigger. And then non-conforming building structures and use of land, a lot of that was just updating it and reformatting it. It goes by the 50% rule, where once you are over 50%, you come into compliance. Just like a house, if it's a legal non-conforming house and it's destroyed by more than 50%, you gotta, in order to rebuild it, it's gotta come into code compliance. Same with building and land uses. Review and decision-making bodies. The Planning Commission currently sits in our municipal code, so this is going to be moved to the zoning code where it's traditionally located. However, it's not changing anything. The membership's the same, all that. Board of Adjustment, same thing, no changes, just reformatted. And then the appeals to an administrative decision, rewrote that. That's one of those where if I make a decision based on the zoning code and somebody doesn't like or doesn't agree with it, they can then appeal it to the city manager. If they don't like the outcome of that, then they can appeal it to the Board of Adjustment. And then, of course, after the Board of Adjustment, it would go to the courts. The variances, I rewrote the purpose and scope to better relate to variances. And that, as I said, the appeals from the BOA still go to the district court. But one of the other things that was in there is minor variances. This would allow, so in the event there's a setback issue, somebody accidentally encroached into a front setback by a foot. Through a minor variance, if it's justified, we can take care of that rather than running them through the Board of Adjustment every time there's those small. But there are limitations, like a setback can only be no more than 10%. So even on a side yard, that's like 6 inches in that. So there are some limitations. And then the administration part, just again, put in a lot of the stuff that we already do, but just was not in there. Like in the event we can withhold the permit because we don't have all of the information or something on there. And same thing, revoke a permit because they haven't followed through with the proper permits, or even a stop work order because they're not getting permits. It just, again, it wasn't in there. So the next steps tonight is just an introduction and any questions. There will be no action. The second meeting in April, which now looks like April 22nd, this will come back as a actual formal item for approval and adoption. If that holds true, we would have the publication of ordinances around April 30th, and then the actual effective date of the zoning code would be May 30th. One other thing I just wanted to quickly mention, if you looked at the ordinance, there's a lot of repealing. And so there's the telecommunications towers, the mobile home, RV parks, as I said, the Planning Commission, a lot of those, the signs, they currently sit in the municipal code and they're traditionally in the zoning code. So as this gets adopted, we would be repealing it from the municipal code, and it would be here, so we obviously don't have double standards. So with that, I give it back to the council.
Questions, Dan, from the council?
So I got a statement and a question.
Yes.
The statement is you did a great job and you really broke your back on this thing. And I commend you for that.
Thank you.
The second, the question, two questions really. I'm confused on why we have to rush this through so quickly still, okay? And I am. This document is about 300 times more than we just went over. Oh, yeah. Maybe even more than that. I mean, it's a big fat document. I don't remember limiting bed and breakfast to 5 units at all in our meetings. I don't remember that ever happening. Maybe I was off somewhere.
Yeah, it could have been one of the meetings that you weren't at.
There wasn't that many of those.
No, there wasn't. But yeah, but there were because one of the things that.
Do you remember that?
I remember the discussion, yeah.
Of limiting bed and breakfast to five rooms, 5 units within a bed and breakfast?
That's only in a single family. That was only in single family zoning.
I understand that, but that's where most of them are.
The existing is you need a special use permit. Period.
Right.
This would allow up to 5 units by right without going through a special use permit, and then 6 or more would would then require the special use permit. If the council feels that.
No, I was just curious. I don't remember that. That's why I say, that's what leads me to the question on why we have to push this, because I was in the meetings and I don't remember that.
So what I'm understanding you to say is that it wasn't limiting bed and breakfast to 5 units, but that was the threshold, and if they go above 5, they have to come in for a.
Yeah, because again, currently by code, in an R1, you need a special use permit, period, for a bed and breakfast. Whether, it's 1 or 2 rooms or whatever.
And now we're saying the threshold would be
5. By 5.
If this were passed.
Right, in a single family, right. And then beyond that, it would require a special use permit.
And that's probably enough. I mean, I don't know. I'm ignorant to that side of to the bed and breakfast business, I guess. I don't know if that's standard, if that's something that they all,
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to, Yeah, when it comes to those type of uses, because most cities now put it under short-term rentals, whether it's Airbnb, anything like that. So it's like everything. It varies per community on what they feel comfortable with, what they want. I've seen some where they don't regulate it at all. There's some that, just like ours, where it's a special use permit period, and there's some in between. So it's really the comfort level of you know, the community, the council, on what they feel is appropriate. And again, we're talking within a single-family area.
I have some questions. And first of all, thank you, Dan, for, I know this was a massive undertaking, so thank you for all your work on that. You had mentioned on 7,000 square foot lots that 2 units would be allowed by right. So just to clarify, that is not on the 3,500 square foot lots.
No, 3,500 square foot lot would be limited to 1 unit, period.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they would be allowed an accessory dwelling unit?
No, not on the 35.
Okay.
You have to have a minimum of 7,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
For 2 units?
Yep.
Okay, and that is not in the original town site, correct?
No, that is
Do
within
we have
the.
7,000 square foot lots in the
Yeah, because that was one of the other issues that we had, is the typical lot that's been combined, because again, the original lots were 25 by 140, which is 3,500 square feet. Most people combine them into a 7,000 square foot lot. Our code currently says in order to have a duplex, you need an 8,000 square foot lot. So even if we go and rezone a 7,000 square foot lot, they can't have a duplex. And, you know, that 1,000 square foot makes no difference whatsoever. So that was one of the other things that changed, is it put it in to what we typically see within our original town site, which is either the 3,500 or the 7,000.
Okay. And then I had a question about the commercial. You said that there were provisions put in there that would allow for regulation of residential in commercial. Is that allowing new residential, or is that just regulating the current residential?
No, it's currently allowed. Our current code allows, and what our code says is you can have residential within a commercial area, but it has to be one or the other. We don't have a mixed use. So if you do residential, all the residential stuff applies, you know, setbacks, uses, you know, lot coverage, accessory units, that whole thing. If you want to use it as commercial, then the residential has to go away and you can use it as commercial. In that. And there's a couple provisions in there, as I said, that would kind of allow for that micro mixed use to happen now. Because we even have a lot of properties south of town that are like 2 acres. And they're zoned commercial, but they're being used as residential. With the accessory commercial units, they could put a small commercial building on there and, you know, be able to better utilize that property.
Okay, so this would allow someone to put a residential into the commercial area?
Yeah.
Like new construction?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but again, because one example I give is Mission Hills. It's actually Zone C2. But it was platted and it was approved as a single-family subdivision. So somebody cannot go in there, tear a house down, and put in a commercial business type of thing, because it's a single-family subdivision. Most of the lots that are for commercial are in and around the downtown. That's where that provision, or the original town site area, where you can have, again, an existing home with commercial turned in, or I mean residential that's zoned commercial, to do that. You can't do it in Mission Hills, even with the new code. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And then with the medical marijuana, I know at the state level, we've added more regulations over the past several years, and I don't really even know what those are exactly. Does this code, like, is it baseline with state regs, or is it stricter than state regs, or how,
No, it would be baseline with the state in that. The 1,000-foot provision is currently in state law. We just put it in ours as well in that. But there, if you, under that section, it does say that, you know, any state law is still applicable in that. So anytime the state changes that, they would have to comply with it, and we would make sure that they are, but it is not more strict. We had talked about maybe limiting the distance between different dispensaries and all that, and in the end, it was decided we just want to make sure it doesn't get around, you know, schools or daycares or that type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and that's what the state requirements are.
Right, that's
Very much
currently,
are.
yes.
So that's just following that.
Yeah, because some communities have put in provisions that limit the number of like dispensaries you can have within a certain distance, where they have to be separated by 1,000 or 2,000 feet, something like that.
Okay, all right. Any other questions,
Yes.
council?
I have something to say. Having attended every single meeting, I don't remember everything discussed. I have a folder I can refer to. Probably would still have to ask questions based on everything we talked about over time. I'm impressed now and was impressed then that I can ask you anything and you're right there. You could go to the page and point it out. I'm thoroughly impressed with that. The fact that you think we need to drag it out here further, Brian, who are we trying to appease, or who do you feel is uninformed that we need to inform?
I didn't say we need to drag it out further.
Yeah, you
okay?
did.
No, what I said is I think
we're rushing into it. What does that mean?
Well, we kind of are. I mean, this is about a 500-page document.
Okay, so are we going to do this
meetings,
every council meeting? Are we going to go through different pages like we already did for the last 5 months? What do we need to do? We need to print a copy, make it accessible to whoever's in question, or
well, I already asked him to give. I already asked him to give all of council a red line that we have,
okay,
so that they can go through the red line. Yeah. And all I'm saying is all right. So is a 20-minute meeting in planning enough to approve this? Because they did.
Well,
okay.
I'm not going to
go there.
We're talking about this code.
We are talking about this code, but we're talking about
you brought it up then. You brought it up now. What do you want?
We're talking about 7 people voting in a zoning code.
Okay.
Planning voted it in about a 20-minute meeting.
That's why we had 3 council people at that.
I think every council person should be given the same presentation that I went through. I think everybody on planning should see what
Then why didn't they all attend every meeting?
I didn't set it up, so I don't know.
Every single meeting I was
there. You can't because it's a
and I was the only one that can say that, I think.
I was at all of them but one.
Oh, you fool.
No, I think the plan is.
Are you saying I missed more than one meeting?
I'm pretty sure you did. But still, besides the point, who do we need to inform here to get this passed?
I think, here's what I'm saying.
Do we have a goal?
You asked a question. Do you want an answer or not?
Yeah, give it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
The answer is, I think we just need a little more time for the people that weren't there to be able to go through this 500-page document.
Okay.
That you and I went through over the course of 11 weeks or 12 weeks, whatever it was.
And the plan to bring it back is in 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, 3 weeks
But,
actually.
yeah, and hope maybe this will answer Brian's question. Once the Planning Commission had approved or recommended approval of it, I had sent that document as well as the red lines to all the council members. So that was March 14th. So like you said, you have April now 22nd. So there'll be basically a whole month to be able to review, ask questions, concerns, or that. The same was provided to the Planning Commission. They had that actually even before the last meeting of the Oversight Committee, so they could make sure that if they had any questions, concerns, or had ample time to read it over and review it, so it wasn't just thrown at them at a meeting and then expected a decision in 15 minutes.
Yeah. So that's something that I wasn't aware that they had the red line.
Yes.
I know that in those meetings, I've asked a lot of questions. I didn't see very many questions coming from down there.
No, because
you just went with Dan whatever he was doing. I get it. Okay.
I think that I think that we have been given ultimately almost a month, council members, to look at a document. I think the other thing that we shouldn't lose in this is that it's not casting concrete. there are opportunities along the way to make amendments to what we are, to this amendment project. And I would hope that 10 years from now, we're not looking at something, a new rezoning for the first time in 10 years. This is a dynamic process. This is a dynamic time that we're in housing and in zoning in our community. So I don't know that this is going to be, it shouldn't be the last time that we as a council visit it. We have the opportunity to amend. I think we have had 30 days. I can tell you that I have not read every single page. I've looked through most of it. I salute you and the team representing our council and the team representing our community for meeting 11 times or whatever it was to go through this. I think it's a huge step forward. I think it's a wonderful document for our community. But it's not the end-all be-all. There are opportunities to amend.
Yeah. And if I may, Mayor, that is a.
And that's the first thing I did was commend you for your work
Yeah, no, I
on
understand.
this document.
Yeah.
Because you did do a great job
Yeah,
on it, no
thank you.
question. I just want to make sure, Tracy, that if other council people have questions, that they have ample time to go through the document and ask the questions, that's all.
Well, I think we've got 3 weeks. We got 3 more weeks.
One of the concerns that I have is that we just had a city election today, and I've checked the results, and by an overwhelming majority, we'll have a new city council member joining. When Mayor Robb has to resign his seat to take the mayor's position, there will be another city council member. I mean, I think you did a great job, Dan, but I do think that this is a document that ultimately it is a reflection of where we want to head as a city. I mean, a code like this is a reflection of where we are going to go as a city. And I love most of the stuff you've done, because I think that affordable housing, I don't think there's anybody that's been a bigger proponent of affordable housing than I have. I mean, and you were there when we brought Positively Paseo to Guthrie to build affordable housing, right? But we do have 2 council members, and I think that is something that we need to consider, that will be taking office in May. And a
Which
new mayor.
I think that is an important consideration, because obviously, like, all of us up here, we've had time, and those 2 council members are just gonna walk into the middle of literally everything, even beyond just the zoning code, and have to like pick it all up and figure it out. So I think that would be really overwhelming to them, and I think it's important for us to take care of this and put it into place so that they don't inherit this mountain of things.
Yeah, Dan, I understand everything you've written in the code. I don't have any issues. I'm just worried that other people who were not in those meetings, which you did a really good job at presenting that to us, them just being given the 500-page red, I'm just throwing out the number, but the red line, they won't have the teacher in the room to answer certain questions in the manner that we did.
And I appreciate that. I think the red line version is about 200 pages.
Okay, well, he said 500, so I was just throwing that.
But I do
Yeah.
appreciate Dan getting that to us as soon as he could, because I have started reading through that, every word of it, and I'm making a whole list of questions, and I've asked some questions tonight, but I fully intend to sit down with Dan and go through all of my questions and concerns before we vote on this. So I feel like, as someone who has not been in these meetings, if it helps you guys, and I appreciate your concern, I feel like I have ample time to ask my questions, bring up my concerns, and have those addressed before we vote on it.
And the person that's elected tonight, it's possible to give that person, I think it would be possible to give that person this draft so that could be reviewed. So that really leaves the one new person out of the mix of 7. The new person that would be replacing you. And again,
I mean, to
I
answer
don't
your
know if there's
question,
going to be a perfect document that's presented.
that's my thoughts on it. And you brought up a very good point, Mayor, and I think that's very important, is a zoning code should be reviewed in, a pretty heavy entirety, at least every 5 years in that. But as you indicated, just like we've seen with the current code, we'll see with this code and later on, things change in our society, in our cities, and there's no way you can write a code now that is still going to be relevant 10, 15 years down the road. In that, and so it's keeping up on it in that, and we are probably going to have things come across, but we can address them. We can have amendments like we've seen again with the existing code that we have here and there. One of the things I did share with the mayor today, and in that, just throwing it out there, I've talked to a lot of people in the community about the code, about the changes. There's a lot of them out there that are eagerly anticipating this code because it's going to open up a lot of opportunities, especially in the housing end. But there wasn't one person that thought that this was crazy, out of line, or what. They actually said, thank you. I'm glad that the city is looking towards these type of issues and that. So, there may not be people here today, but I can tell you there's a large part of the community that is very supportive of this and is looking forward to it and what it'll allow for us in the future.
Just for clarification, when are we, Eddie, when are we going to vote on it then?
April 22nd.
Just for, okay.
Be your next meeting,
Okay.
assuming the council would like to vote on it at that time.
Yeah.
And I must say, I'm not pressing for even that date. And I admit, I wasn't thinking about the two council persons coming on. And since the council's gonna vote on it, they should be aware of what's in there. I agree 100%. I'm just trying to find out who, like you said, people in the public or in the business sector that are looking forward to it. My point is, who out there is not aware that needs to be aware? And how do we get to there? That's all I'm saying. Whether that's past the 22nd, fine, I don't care. But let's decide when that's gonna be and how we're gonna go about it.
Yeah, I don't think we wait till the end of the year. That's not where I was
Well, I
going with it.
didn't think you did.
No, I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of what's
My
in
mind
this
was
thing.
who's not aware, who's not informed enough to make a decision.
Well,
I know, I wasn't thinking about those two, I already said that. I wasn't thinking about those two, come on, because we've been doing this for months, so.
But we can certainly solve one of those two.
Sure.
We can certainly solve one of those two. This opportunity, as people view this, may generate some more interest and engagement and questions. And I would suggest that, Dan, if you do get a lot of questions, then I think it's incumbent upon you to say, hey, maybe we need to step back for another a couple, 2 weeks or whatever, beyond the 22nd, beyond our next city council meeting, to reevaluate these questions that come up. I'm just thinking that we can't continue to kick a can hoping that we get a perfect product, because it's not going to happen.
But Councilwoman Mills had a legit point too, in that, do we overwhelm and overstimulate a new council person coming in,
Well,
It's a
and-
big document.
It is a big document.
The two candidates on the ballot today could easily have come tonight and listened to this whole presentation. They could have come to the planning commission and listened to the same presentation. All of the public could have come tonight. That's what this is for.
Yeah.
So anyone can be informed if they choose to. It's
That's
all there.
Valid comments.
Is there a particular reason why it can't be till the second meeting in May? I'm not advocating for that, I'm just asking, just asking.
Not from a staff perspective.
I mean, my whole thing is there builders that are
Yes.
ready and waiting on this so that they can start like a little mini community? And they're waiting on us to approve it for it, because that's a whole different.
No, there are some,
deal.
and I'm, I get calls. In fact, there's a woman in Silver Valley area that's looking to build an accessory dwelling unit for her aging, I think her mother, in that. And just recently, like I said, I've gotten a few calls, I don't remember offhand, but there are some that definitely give me calls on a fairly regular basis asking where the code is.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I'm not discounting the dwelling thing, but is the prolonging of this decision hindering business investment at this time?
I can't say with absolute certainty, but I could say yes, it could be.
So potentially, yes.
It's general for
Potentially-
anything that we pass in any
potentially,
capacity.
yes. Potentially, yes. And again, this isn't something that's cast in concrete. If there's a need to amend it, there's
Well-
opportunity to do that.
From my perspective, only from being in the meetings, I have no changes that I need or want to make.
Right.
Well, you
I'm good
contributed
with the
some,
final
and you did-
document.
You did a good job. You contributed some of that word change because of your questions and observances. That's what that was all about, so I commend you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. And so I just want to make sure that everybody else has the same fair opportunity, that's all. I'm just an opportunist in that, in that
Okay.
respect.
I'm sorry.
I just said, I think we do.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on. We have a opportunity, obviously, when it comes to vote, if you decide, if you think that there needs to be more time than the next city council meeting, that will show up when you vote. But if we can make sure that the newest person can get a draft of it.
First
so
thing
that
in the
she
morning.
can review it.
We don't know who will replace.
No, that's 1 out of 7.
Right.
Well, we won't have that person for some time. That, you know, that's not going to be till probably
Well, that's up
June
to,
or
that's
July.
up to the council. That's up to
Yeah.
the council.
Yes,
But
understand.
I don't want to beat this horse to death, folks. I think we have the opportunity to vote. If you think that it needs more time than in our city council meeting, that's how you can vote. But I'm not seeing that we're gaining a whole lot of new information here. So I'd like to move on. Again, join with others here. Congratulations, Dan, on leading this. Congratulations on those that represented the council. I really appreciate that. And obviously, congratulations to those citizens that represented the community. A great effort for a document that impacts our community for a long time. Thank you.
So we
Thank
give
you.
Dan a round of applause.
Thank you.
No, I don't need one.
Oh, don't get shy on this.
And that I will say is probably the last time you'll get an applause for a 35-minute presentation.
Right. I cut it down from an hour and a half.
You did, and you did really well. Thank you very much, Dan. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
very much. Item number 7, you might as well stay right there.
Yes,
A
thank you.
request for a special permit at 1424 West Warner Avenue. Please educate us as to what this is all about.
Thank you, Mayor.
We've seen pictures.
Yes, as this special use permit is for a carport in the front of the house. There's a house that has an existing one-car garage. They're looking to put it in front of it. It's the flat roof with the typical, if you want to say, columns on there. It's similar to what we've approved most recently in the original townsite area. The Planning Commission had recommended approval for the carport. They found it compatible with the neighborhood, so with that, give it back to the council.
Okay.
Was it anybody
Questions?
complaining?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion, questions? Submit your votes.
I'll vote Duran.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to move forward with the special use permit at 1424 West Warner Avenue. Item number 8, ordinance number 3421, request to rezone in the 500 block of South Academy Road. Dan?
Thank you, Mayor. This property is located across the street from the Guthrie Job Corps on that portion of Academy. And just to the south of it, there's a existing duplex development. I forgot what it's called. Cottage something. Yeah. So it's right in that area. It's a 4.4 acre parcel. It's currently zoned A2. They're looking to go to R2 because they want to do a similar multifamily development as there is to the south. The only person that commented at the public hearing was the neighbors who sold the property, knowing it was going to be developed, but they were concerned with their tree on the south side because technically there could be an entrance there. The developer talked with those people, and they're going to have the entrance to the north, and it isn't going to affect everything. So at that point, everybody was happy. The Planning Commission recommended unanimously to approve the rezone from A1 to R2.
And you didn't get any negative letters?
Yeah, there was no other calls or letters or anything regarding the rezone.
So moved.
I have a question.
Yep.
Do you know how many units are planned for this?
Not at this point. There, as I put in my staff report, there's obviously some limitations in there given how many you can have, parking and that. As I said, I would guess that there probably at a max would be 45 units that could be put on that parcel in that, but at this point, he hasn't submitted any specific plans.
Okay. And did you say in here that those were potentially duplexes?
Yeah, he's looking at duplexes, yeah. So there would be 45 units, but about 20 structures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I believe we had a motion.
Yep.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes right?
See the votes. Unanimous approval then for ordinance number 3221 in the rezoning of the 500 block of South Academy. Item number 9, city manager report.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this evening I have no report for you, but I will get it out to you by the end of the week.
What? Good deal.
All right, all right. Item number 10, comments from city council. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to congratulate you on the recognition you got today. Thank you for your service. I would like to thank both of the people who ran for city council, all 4 of the people that ran for city council. And I think that's a testament to the quality of people that we have in the community that want to serve. And congratulations to Mrs. Gibbs for winning that election. So that's all I had.
Councilman Williams.
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Bothroyd.
Just again to Dan and staff for doing a good job. That's it for me.
Councilman Ropp.
Congratulations, Mayor, on your
Thank you.
award today. You look great in your outfit. You should have wore it more often.
Yeah.
Every
They
meeting.
They don't usually call this an outfit.
Sorry.
It is a uniform.
I have a legitimate excuse for this. I'm a movie maker. So anytime there's a police or anything like that, it's always an outfit, because my mistake, you're correct, uniform. Sorry, my producer brain there. But congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
I would like to second what Vice Mayor Gary said. Thank you for everyone who put their name in the race and got out there and ran. I know what that's like. We appreciate it. And congratulations to Mineka Gibbs. I don't think it's official yet. It still has to go through the Logan County election. But as of right now, she is the councilwoman-elect, so congratulations to her. Dan, once again, thank you for putting all the work you did into this. I know this was months, maybe, heck, I don't know, maybe years for you to put that together and your staff. So thank you. The Renaissance Festival happened last weekend, had about 10,000 attendees. So I'd like to thank John Pagonis and his entire team for putting that on. It was great. I went all weekend with my kids. Appreciate that. Yeah, so other than that, that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Mills.
Yes, I'm excited for 89ers coming up. That's always a huge thing for our town. So I appreciate everybody who puts in the work to make that happen. I realize that's a big undertaking. But hopefully we'll have big crowds this year and lots of fun festivities. Also, I'm super excited about Guthrie Day at the Capitol coming up next Thursday, the 10th. Hope that everyone will come to the Capitol for that and show off our town to all of our legislators and staffers and the public. So that's all.
That's really important, and I believe this is the first
That's correct.
First one that we've had.
This will be the inaugural event hosted by the Guthrie Chamber. So we were able to partner with Brittany Timmons, President and CEO of the Chamber, and we look forward to that event.
It was a great opportunity to visit with legislators and reflect on the greatness of Guthrie. Yep, for sure. Councilman Taylor.
Staff, thank you. Justin, it was good to see you today down at the Capitol. It was a fun time down there. I know Katie was down there as well. She got to see you and the mayor, and I didn't get to see the mayor. But anyway, that was great. I appreciate what everybody's done. Dan, We've been on this for what, 2 years, 2.5 years, I think? 5? Okay. I couldn't remember.
Wait a
It was
minute.
something.
Wait a minute.
So-
It's been a while.
So
I,
that,
I don't think it's 5 years.
No, it's been, it's
That
more
was
than
from the very inception of starting the,
okay.
it's been about 3 years since we kind of fell off.
35 minutes, that's gotta be a record for you.
That's what I said. Condensed it.
89ers is coming up, guys, so we've got that coming up. There'll be a picture with the governor on the 15th, and of course, like I said, Guthrie Day's coming up. Congrats, Mayor. I think it's
Thank
pretty
you.
cool.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's it.
Okay, we've been through a tough time as a community, as a county, as a state, as it relates to the fires, the wildfires. Our first responders, firemen, police, again, did a spectacular job in very, very difficult circumstances. And you know, sometimes we forget about them until they're needed. We need to remember them every day, every single day, because they do a spectacular job in keeping us all safe, whatever the circumstance is. So we are blessed to have those professionals in our community, in our administration. A couple different things. I unfortunately let this pass 2 weeks ago. National Vietnam Veterans Day was March 29th. And it was proclaimed by President Trump back in 2017, to recognize Vietnam era veterans and welcome them home, which some of them didn't have the opportunity when they did come home. So I want to make a special, on behalf of the city, the council, special thank you to the Vietnam veterans out there in our community, of which there are a lot. There's 6 to 7 million Vietnam veterans that are living in our country today, and we owe them a lot. So thank you. We owe all the veterans, but thank you to Vietnam veterans on their Vietnam Veterans Day again, March 29th. We've got the Murrah bombing memorial, which is a big thing in Oklahoma, in Oklahoma City. We are also dedicating a monument here in Mineral Wells on April 17th at noon to memorialize the 6 citizens that died, Guthrie citizens that died in the Murrah bombing, as well as to recognize and honor the 24 firemen that responded to the Murrah bombing and were there in the throes of things. So noon on 17th, we're going to be recognizing both those groups. Congresswoman Bice will be the keynote speaker, but we are also just found out that the fire chief at the time, Kenny Webb, is coming from the state of Washington, coming back to be a part of that recognition and share his memories of the day. So it'll be a very, very special day, April 17th at Mineral Wells at noon. It'll be across the west side of Mineral Wells, across the pond. Love to see everybody there. With that, we are adjourned from our first meeting.
I'm gonna rescue my dog.
And let me open our Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting of April 1st. Second item on the agenda is consent agenda items A through G. I'll entertain a motion to unanimously approve those as submitted and sent to the public.
So moved.
Oh, okay. I was going to interrupt. Yes, second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes.
You going to read the whole thing?
No.
Unanimous approval then to approve consent agenda items A through G. Item number 3 is items removed from the consent agenda. There were none. That being the last item on our Public Works Authority meeting, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. We are adjourned. Thank you.